Council will come to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those participating via Zoom, when we get to the item that you wish to speak on, please use the raise hand feature, and the city clerk will turn on your microphone to speak at the appropriate time. Let the record show that all council members are here except for Council Member Louis Freitas. The first item on the agenda is commending the Newark Maintenance Division for outstanding storm response efforts. I'm going to ask my colleagues to join me down at the podium. It's really our pleasure as a Newark City Council to recognize our outstanding maintenance department. When we went through the amount of rain that we saw in the last 60 days and the effort by our city staff to go out, oftentimes between the hours of 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. in the morning, to make sure that we as residents, when we got up in the morning, our streets were free of debris, trees that had fallen that were obstructing traffic were taken care of. Storm drains that were backed up were cleared so that our commutes and our drive around our city, we were safe. Many people will say, well, you know, that's their responsibility, that's their job. It is their job. But who wants to get up at 2 a.m. in the morning to go out and do this type of work unless you're a dedicated public employee? It's part of the job, but it's the love of the job of serving the public that makes these employees so outstanding. And so we're going to recognize them this evening. And when I call your name, I'd like you to come up and you'll be presented with a certificate from one of my colleagues. And then I'll ask you to stay as we read the accommodation into the record.
Your Honor, before you call out names, may I say something?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. So do you know that this was the wettest winter we've had since 1862? It's like 111 years or something, you know? So, and we've had more than 13 atmospheric rivers. Who in their lifetime has heard of that? I hadn't, you know, but I return the podium to you, Your Honor.
I think you said it all.
All right. So let's start in alphabetical order, not necessarily based on importance, because I'm sure Francisco Aguirre hears that all the time. He's always called first. So let's start with Francisco. Louis Bailon. Dan. I'm going to leave it at Dan because I think, Dan, last time I butchered your name. Lorenzo Houle. And I know I butchered this name last time, Nick. Brian Lewis. Josue Lopez Duenas. Gustavo Perez. Ryan Perez. Jackson Posadas. Raimundo Ruiz. Miguel Sanchez Casillas. Jennifer Tran. Assistant Maintenance Superintendent Neil Hornbeck. Maintenance Superintendent Tanya Connolly. Now it's my pleasure. This is the accommodation that each one of these outstanding employees received. Whereas a continuous series of powerful winter storms with multiple atmospheric rivers have poured across the Bay Area region and the state of California in the last several months, providing much-needed rainfall and welcome drought relief. Whereas these storms have also seriously impacted most California jurisdictions with ongoing rain and/or snow, high-intensity precipitation events, and multiple windstorms resulting in catastrophic flooding, downed trees, and in many cases, permanent significant damage to homes, businesses, and public infrastructures. Whereas many of the major storm events in the Bay Area that occurred between late December 2022 through March 14, 2023 have impacted the city of Newark. Those include several windstorm events with sustained winds up to 50 miles per hour and several gusts approaching 70 miles per hour, multiple lengthy periods of significant rainfall, and several extremely high-intensity rainfall events, all of which resulted in localized flooding, full flood control channels, many downed trees and branches and debris scattered throughout local streets and parks. Whereas the City of Newark's Maintenance Division has responded to each of these storm events by working tirelessly for extended hours, including overnight hours in many cases, in order to clear down trees and branches, resolve flooding issues, help residents obtain sandbags, and keep city streets clear and safe, among other duties. Whereas advanced storm preparation efforts by the Maintenance Division staff help prevent any serious permanent damage to the city's infrastructure and minimize the overall adverse impact to residents and businesses. Whereas the maintenance team, which comprises these fine individuals, now I, Mayor Michael Hannon, along with my colleagues on the Newark City Council, do hereby commend the entire City of Newark Maintenance Division for their outstanding dedication to the City of Newark and the Newark community, and thank them for their outstanding efforts over the last 3 months in responding to these serious storm events. So I want to again thank them for their outstanding work, knowing that our community is safe because of their efforts. Let's give them one more round of applause.
Do a picture before everybody takes off? Yeah. I'm the only one that looks like I work in maintenance. Got to get a photo of it. We're gonna hang it up down.
Sarge should be in the picture.
Oh, here, no, let's all squeeze in, get the mayor in the middle. Come on in over here, guys. Come on.
In front of the podium?
Ray in the front.
Yeah.
Around it?
Sarge should be in the picture.
Soren, you should be in this.
Sarge, you need to be.
You get on this side.
Sarge, you should be in the picture, man. You help out a lot.
Ladies, up here, up here, up here.
City manager as well.
Señoritas, this way.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, like anything.
Don't want that. Thank you for your service.
almost felt like a graduation ceremony where I was calling up all the graduates. You know, we oftentimes recognize our public safety employees, those that work in police and fire, because they're the ones that we see that are responding to emergency situations, just as kind of a nature of their job. We don't think of those people that do public maintenance work and the work that they do because as residents, we just kind of expect our streets are going to be clean. Things that happen throughout the community are going to be resolved fairly quickly, but people don't know who does that work. Well, tonight they know who does that work. And I just want you to know on behalf of our entire community, your efforts are appreciated, so thank you for that. The next commendation is our presentation to the Fair Housing Program. I'll ask Bill Espinoza, Asina Thai, and Barbara Clemens if they would join me at the podium. And I apologize if I mispronounced anyone's name. Thank you. That's what happens when I try to read things with my glasses on. How are you? Good. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Fair Housing Month. Whereas the passage of the Fair Housing Act in 1968 enshrined into federal law the goal of eliminating racial segregation and ending housing discrimination in the United States, whereas the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, disability, financial status, and national origin, and whereas the fair housing is a positive community good benefiting the environment and our social fabric, whereas economic stability, community health, and human relations in all communities are improved by diversity and integration, whereas fair housing is integral to the ethical commitment of members of the National Association of Realtors and the Bay East Association of Realtors, and is a critical to the ability of all real estate professionals to serve their clients, customers, and communities, whereas acts of housing discrimination and barriers to equal housing opportunity are repugnant to a common sense of decency and fairness. Now, therefore, I, Michael K. Hannon, Mayor of the City of Newark, on behalf of my colleagues, proclaim April 2023 Fair Housing Month. So let's hear it for these folks. Here you go. Thank you very much. I don't know if you want to go ahead and say a few words?
Yeah, sure.
Please feel free.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. So on behalf of the Bay East Association of Realtors, I'd like to thank the mayor, the city council, and staff for recognizing Fair Housing Month and for continuing to provide equitable housing in the city of Newark. So we're also looking forward to continuing this in the future. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Good to see you. I'm really proud of our city council and our colleagues when we talk about fair housing. We've built a number of new housing projects here in the city of Newark, and just in the last few months, we have built a number of housing units where affordable housing units will be a significant component of those developments. So we not only recognize the need for fair housing, but the need for affordable housing in this community. And I'm really proud of our colleagues for adopting development proposals that include a significant amount of affordable housing. There's more to do, and I think we're up for that challenge. The last proclamation is to proclaim April 23 to April 26 as National Crime Victims' Rights Week. And I would ask Selena if she would join me. Is Selena here? Okay. Being like any good reader, you learn to think on your feet. This is National Rights Week, and we were going to proclaim to them, if they were here tonight, that more than 26 million people become victims of crime each year, and these crimes affect family members, friends, neighbors, and coworkers. The Alameda County Victim Witness Division is dedicated to ensuring the rights of crime victims and their families by providing services to aid in their recovery from the emotional, psychological, social, and economic impact of crime as they reclaim their sense of safety, well-being, and dignity. The Victims Witness staff assists victims of crime without regard to a person's race, gender, religion, nationality, sexual orientation, and gender identity or immigration status. Alameda County District Attorney's Office Victims Witness Program was the first such program established in 1974, beginning with one victim advocate. Today, the Alameda County District Attorney's Office employs more than 60 individuals dedicated to working with victims of crime. Whereas the 1984, the Crime Victims Fund was established by the Victims of Crime Act to provide a permanent source of support for crime victim services and compensation. Alameda County District Attorney's Office Victims Witness Assistance Division partners with survivors, community service providers, criminal justice professionals, and victims to enhance a criminal justice system response that is accessible, culturally competent, and appropriate for all victims of crime. And whereas in 2022, the Alameda County District Attorney's Office Victims Witness Assistance Division provided over 1,651 services to 289 crime victims in Newark. For victims of crime without financial means, the District Attorney's Office facilitated financial support through the Victims Compensation Program. Whereas National Victims' Rights Week provides an opportunity to celebrate the energy, creativity, and commitment that launched the victims' rights movement, inspired its progress, and continues to advance the cause of justice for these victims. Therefore, I, Michael Hannon, Mayor of the City of Newark, on behalf of my colleagues, proclaim April 23 to April 29 as National Victims' Rights Week. And we'll make sure that this proclamation gets to them. Thank you. I hope the maintenance folks, as they exit the room, notice that I make sure that we had 70-plus degree weather today, clear skies, so that they get home and have a nice evening with their families. It's amazing what this mayor will do for the community.
We approved that weather.
This is the public comment portion of our agenda. It's for an opportunity for any member of the public to speak on any issue that is not on the agenda. For Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand feature if you would like to speak. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the City Council on an item that's not on the agenda tonight? Ms. Slapter, anybody on Zoom that would like to speak?
No one, Your Honor.
I'm sorry. Yes, please come forward.
My colleague here would have a question for you.
Sure, can you please come to the podium? Let me turn that microphone around.
We were hoping to get a picture.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Gosh.
I guess that was a public comment.
No, is this public comment on a non-agendized item, though?
Well, the picture wasn't on the agenda.
That's a good point. But we're on safe ground here.
We have to document to make sure we were here.
Did everybody notice how he tried to blame his colleague? My colleague would like a picture. We weren't falling for it.
That was a professional move. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Any other photographs of the mayor before we begin? Ms. Slapter, I'm sorry, was there anybody on Zoom that wanted to speak on items not on the
No
agenda?
one, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item is the consent calendar. The next, it consists of items D1 through D9. Are there any items staff would like pulled from the consent calendar?
Not this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you. Are there any items the public would like pulled from the consent calendar? Ms. Flachter, is there anybody on Zoom that would like to pull anything from the consent calendar? Thank you. Colleagues, any items that you'd like pulled from the consent calendar? Well, I'm going to pull items D4 and D9. And because this is a long list of consent items, I'm going to simply ask for a motion to approve the consent calendar other than D4 and D9. If I could get a motion?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Bucci, seconded by Vice Mayor Collazo. All those in favor? Let me put this up. Oh, sorry, Susie.
I'm absent. Okay, no. I will.
Okay. That carries 4 ayes with Councilmember Freitas absent. Item D4 is adopt a resolution approving an agreement with the County of Alameda for participation in the County of Alameda Strategic Vision Initiative, Vision 2026 Community Grant Program, and amending the 2022-2024 biennial budget and capital improvement plan. Colleagues, the reason I pulled the city is going to receive just over $50,000, and a good portion of that money is going to assist folks in our community that are certainly in need of financial assistance. So I'll ask staff if they can maybe describe some of the highlights of this grant money.
Sure, thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to defer to our Assistant City Manager, Ms. Zavorka.
Thank you, Mayor. There are 4 program components to this grant. The first is, well, all 4 are for income qualified Newark residents. The Promotoris network is highly involved, and that's where a lot of the information comes from to qualify. The first area is laptops. So the Promotoris graduates from training programs and workshops, we have about approximately $15,000 for laptops for them. And then we have $30,000 available for scholarships. So those would be for any low-income Newark resident. Those who are on free or reduced lunch at school qualifies the entire family to participate in this program. So you can actually go online to newark.org/rec scholarships, find the scholarship application online. You can also go into Silliman Center and walk in and get assistance with completing a scholarship application. So those are for family membership passes to Silliman, as well as youth passes, and is also for our classes and programs that we offer as well. The other 2 components are, we have one for our Friday Teen program at Silliman. That's, they're usually there Friday evenings during the school year. They'll be going on a trip to Sacramento actually tomorrow, taking Amtrak to Sacramento and going to History Museum and Underground Railroad Museum. And then we will also be planning an overnight camping trip for families as part of the program.
Thank you for that, Assistant City Manager LaForca. There are so many benefits that we provide to our community, especially those that are low income in our community, and I want to make sure that when those opportunities become available, that we highlight them every opportunity that we can, so those families in our city can take advantage of these programs. And I want to thank the County of Alameda for providing this grant money, and I want to thank the city for highlighting it tonight, and hopefully our families will take advantage of it. The other item I wanted to pull, and this is one I think we can all applaud, certainly up on the dais here, is we're adopting a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Alameda County to restore library service hours and amend the fiscal year 2024 budget. We are going to be expanding our library hours to Sunday, right? We haven't had Sunday hours in quite some time. We're going to be restoring the Sunday hours, and I believe the hours are going to be 1 to 5 on Sundays. And we're negotiating with the county now as to when that's going to start. Undoubtedly, they're dealing with some staffing issues to try to make sure we have adequate staff to pick up those hours. But that's been a priority of this council now for some time. And I want to thank Vice Mayor Collazo, who sits on the Library Commission, advocating this every opportunity, and we certainly support that. And just wanted to highlight that Sunday hours will be returning to the city of Newark, and we're really pleased to see this. So those are my comments. I need a motion, unless there's additional comments on items D4 and D9. I'm sorry. Are there any public comments on items D4 or D9? Ms. Laughter, anybody on? Thank you. Now I'll take a motion to accept those items.
I'd like to move a motion.
Made by Vice Mayor Collazo,
I would like to second.
seconded by Councilmember Jorgens.
Am I here?
And that shows 4 ayes with Councilmember Freitas absent. Thank you for that.
Resolution of the City Council of the City of Newark authorizing city manager to sign the Financing Vision 2026 Fund Grant and amend the fiscal year 2023 budget. And resolution of the City Council of the City of Newark authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Alameda County for additional library services and amend the fiscal year 2024 budget.
I know our former mayor is watching this meeting. He watches all these meetings, and he's saying, the mayor didn't read the consent calendar? Are you kidding me? That long consent calendar, and he didn't read it? I could have done that? Well. Now we're going to move on to public hearings. The first item is a public hearing pursuant to Government Code Section 4217.10 to adopt certain findings and adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an energy services agreement with Cicersco Energy Solutions, SES, in an amount not to exceed $1.598.265 million, and approving an amendment to the biennial budget and adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for the Energy Conservation Assistance Act loan from the California Energy Commission and to execute any necessary loan documents. This is exempt from CEQA pursuant to Section 15301 of the CEQA guidelines. This is a public hearing. I'll have staff make their report first. We'll then open it up for public comments, close public comments, and then return it to the council for their comments and questions. City Manager?
Yes, good evening, Your Honor, and members of the council. Indicates this is a public hearing to consider staff's recommendation to take action on 2 items. First, staff is recommending that the council authorize the city to enter an agreement with Cicersco. This is an existing vendor of the city. This is for the installation of LED streetlights. And the second part of the requested action is authorization to sign loan documents with the California Energy Commission for a 1% financing loan so that we can pay for the construction costs related to the infrastructure improvements. Tonight we have our administrative analyst to the city manager's office, Ms. Roya Gonzalez. She will be providing the presentation to the council, and we do have representatives from the vendor, Cicersco, as well. We'll begin with Ms. Gonzalez. You have the floor.
Thank you, City Manager Ben-Noon. Good evening, Your Honor, members of the City Council. I'm pleased to present to you with an energy efficiency project to upgrade the city's streetlights. In an effort to reduce the city's carbon footprint and reduce energy consumption and maintenance costs, staff began looking at options to upgrade the city's streetlights in 2022. After issuing a request for qualifications, staff determined that Cicersco Energy Solutions was the most qualified contractor and has been working with them as they conduct a detailed streetlight audit and energy analysis. Joining us today in the audience are Scott Menzine and Brian Pittman of Cicersco Energy Solutions, as well as Gabe Johnson, who is joining us virtually. Before we get into the proposed improvements, I will provide some background on the city's existing infrastructure. The city owns and maintains approximately 2,800 streetlights. The maintenance includes a service contract with an outside vendor to repair and replace light bulbs as needed. The majority of our existing streetlights are high-pressured sodium, known as HPS, and there are a handful of streetlights that are already LED, mostly in the newer developments. HPS are characterized as one of the poorest light quality lamp technologies still being used today. LED technology has been available for years, and all new private development in Newark are required to install LED streetlights. Upgrading the streetlights to LED will provide the city with several benefits. The upgrade is anticipated to reduce power consumption by 67%. In addition to the significant energy savings, there will also be maintenance cost savings. As I mentioned in the previous slide, the city contracts with an outside vendor. This expense is anticipated to be reduced by approximately 75%. The LED technology will improve the volume of color and provide a more uniform light distribution, which I will show you some examples of in the next few slides. The new light fixtures will have a useful life of approximately 100,000 hours, which is about 5 times that of the existing HPS lights. As I mentioned, the LED technology will provide an improved volume of light and a more uniform light distribution. As you can see in the picture with the HPS lights, there's what is referred to as a hotspot, which is directly below the lamp and not much light on the rest of the street. And then if you look to the right, you can see how uniform the light distribution is and the difference in clarity. And here's just another example. This photo doesn't show the hotspot, but you can see how much clearer the street is with the LED lights. In addition to the energy savings and improved quality of light, upgrading to LED streetlights will also provide significant cost savings. The total project cost is about $1.6 million, and the estimated first-year annual savings is around $218,000, with a total project payback period of about 7.3 years. And as you can see, the projected 15-year net cumulative savings is about $4.5 million, and this includes a 4% estimated PG&E utility cost escalator. The procurement method used for this project is an alternative to the typical competitive bidding requirements. Government Code 4217 was enacted because of an energy crisis to assist public agencies with expediting and financing energy-efficient projects. Under the code, the city can utilize any procurement process to enter into an energy service agreement if the city council determines that the energy project is less than the energy cost in absence of the project. And these findings must be made at a public hearing with at least 2 weeks' notice. And ultimately, the city council finds that it is in the best interest of the city. The total project cost, again, is close to $1.6 million. Staff is recommending the city apply for a 1% Energy Conservation Assistance Act loan through the California Energy Commission to finance the project. These loans are designed to encourage cities and other public agencies to participate in energy efficiency projects. The interest rate is fixed at 1% for the term of the loan. The loan payments will be made from the energy savings generated by the project. And while the maximum term of the loan is 17 years, it is staff's intent to have a term equal to the payback period of 7.3 years. And just a quick overview of the timeline for the project. As you can see, council action today in April of 2023, and if approved, staff will submit the application for the ECAA loan, and then May or June, we hope to get the loan approval and execute the contract with Sizerco Energy Solutions, with installation beginning in fall of 2023. Again, this is all pending material lead time and a final project completion by the end of the calendar year 2023. And this concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Colleagues, are there any clarifying questions before I open up the public hearing? Yes, Vice Mayor?
My question is, are we going to be just replacing the lights themselves, or are we replacing the poles and the whole?
Councilmember Quaisa, we will be replacing just the lights.
Just the lights?
Yes, not the poles at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other clarifying questions? Councilmember?
Yeah, so of the about, thousands of lights that you had said that are in Newark, how many will be replaced with the LEDs?
With the exception of the lights in Old Town, all remaining lights will be replaced.
This is a public hearing, so I'm going to go ahead and open this item to the public for comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this item? Ms. Flapter, is there anybody online that would like to speak to this item?
No one, Your Honor.
I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and return it back to my colleagues for any questions or comments. Councilmember Bucci.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I picked up on that last part. Why aren't we replacing the ones in Old Town? Why are those being omitted?
Sure, because of the pending plan in Old Town, an analysis was done, and the payback period won't pan out for it to be worth it at this point.
Is that a certain section of town or just complete Old Town between kind of Thornton and Spruce? And
It's where the ornamental lights are.
okay. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Okay, I would just follow up by saying that I'm excited about this. We've talked about it for a long time. I think 67% power savings is worth it right there, but a project that pays itself back in 7.5 years. I wish they all did that. That'd be great. So, no, this is a huge step, and it's something that we've been talking about for a long time. So this is great.
Thank you for the excellent report. And we've heard from our community that they wanted more illumination on our streets for safety, and we've responded to that. As Councilmember Bucci mentioned, I love a project that basically pays for itself. And the savings that we're going to make, not only are we improving our carbon footprint, but it's a project that pays for itself. So outstanding. So I'll look for a motion to approve this item. Councilmember Bucci moves.
Second.
By Vice Mayor Collazo. I'm waiting for my That passes unanimously, 4 ayes, and Councilmember Freitas is not here this evening. Thank you for the report.
Resolution of the City Council of Newark authorizing city manager energy services contract with Sizer Co. Energy Solutions for the energy efficiency improvements to city-owned streetlights pursuant to California Government Code Section 421710, et cetera, and authorizing an amendment to the biennial budget. And resolution of the City Council of the City of Newark authorizing the city manager to apply for an energy efficiency loan from the California Energy Committee to implement energy efficiency measures, and should the loan be approved, execute any related loan documents.
The next item is other business. Adopt a resolution amending the 2022-2024 biennial budget and capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2023 for capital improvement plan budget rollovers. I understand that there's Vice Mayor Collazo, you may have to recuse yourself.
Once more, under the Political Reform Act, I have an economic conflict of interest on this item. I have real property interest and business interest, source of income interest in the Mexico Tortilla Factory at 7015 Thornton Avenue, and rental properties at 7155, 7167, 7179 Thornton Avenue, and rental property at 36805 Magnolia Street. I will recuse myself from consideration of this item, and I will leave the room. I will return following discussion on this item only if you want me to.
City Manager Benoon.
Yes, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. This item is ordinarily placed on the consent calendar as it involves a simple rollover of existing CIP projects to the next fiscal year. Because of the conflict of interest, we pulled it under other business. But this is essentially a typical matter that we undergo every year and place it on the consent calendar. With that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Questions from the council before I open up to the public? Is anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this item? Ms. Slapter, is there anybody online that would like to speak to this item?
No one.
Okay. I'll look for a motion to support this rollover by Councilmember Bucci,
Seconded.
by Councilmember Jorgens. And that passes 3 ayes with Vice Mayor Collazo recusing herself and Councilmember Freitas is absent this evening.
Resolution of the City Council, the City of Newark amending the 2022-2024 biennial budget and capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2022-2023 capital improvement plan rollovers.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to return to the proclamation. I do understand that there is a representative from the District Attorney's Office here to accept the proclamation for National Crime Victims Week between April 23 and April 29. I would ask them to join me at the podium. Folks, it's my pleasure to welcome Selena tonight from the District Attorney's Office. Are you with the Victims Witness Program? Yes, okay. It's a fabulous program, folks. I worked in government in San Jose, and oftentimes anyone that works in government comes across folks that have been victims of crime. And the Victims Witness Program in San Jose were there to not only comfort folks, but to help them understand that they had rights as victims to compensation when compensation was necessary and warranted. It's as you saw when we read the proclamation, it's a group that went from 1 to 60, which shows that there's a significant need in our county for folks to assist people that have been victims of crime. And so I'm not going to reread the proclamation, but I do want to thank the County of Alameda and those hardworking individuals that work in that office for the work that they do to not only comfort victims, but to help them understand where they can receive additional services when necessary. So it's my pleasure to present this proclamation to Selena on behalf of her unit with the Victims Witness Program. And thank you for the work that you do. And if you'd like to make a few comments, you certainly may do so.
Just want to thank you on behalf of the District Attorney's Office, the Victim Witness Unit. Thank you so much, and we look forward to working with you guys. Thank you.
And we're not going to make you stick around for the garbage contract.
Sounds interesting.
Take care.
Thank you.
The next item is to adopt a resolution approving a, oh, I'm sorry. Do we need to turn the mic around? I'm sorry about that. The next item is to adopt a resolution approving a 10-year extension to the franchise agreement with Allied Waste Services of North America, Public Services for collection of solid waste and collection and processing of source-separated recyclable material or construction demolition debris, and revising the maximum limit for rates for solid waste collection, recycling, organics, and construction and demolition debris services starting on June 1, 2023. City Manager Benoon?
Yes, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. This item is a recommendation from city staff for authorization to enter a 10-year franchise agreement with public services. We do have a presentation tonight from our environmental services manager, Mr. James Scanlon, as well as the city's consultant on this, a representative from R3. I do note that we have the general manager and finance manager of Republic Services here with us this evening. We're going to begin with our environmental services manager, Mr. James Scanlon. You have the floor, sir.
I'm not responsible for the security alert. I want to put it on the record right away.
Is the mic on? Yes. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Again, my name is James Scanlon. I'm the Environmental Services Manager with the city. And again, this is an agenda item to consider approving a 10-year extension to the existing franchise agreement with Republic Services. Before I begin, I would like to thank Rose Radford and the R3 Consulting Group for all their help on negotiating the contract. It's been a big effort over a short period of time. We appreciate all their work, and also thanks to Republic Services for their efforts and for their being here tonight. So I'll start with a brief overview, and then Rose will be making a presentation following mine. So the city entered into a 10-year franchise agreement with Republic Services for the collection of solid waste and the collection and processing of source-separated recyclable materials, organic material, and construction and demolition debris in 2013. This is a 10-year agreement, and it expires on May 31st of this year. The city hired R3 Consulting Group in July 2022 to assist with the development of the new agreement, of a new agreement. In November 2022, staff made a presentation to council and recommended that the city negotiate an extension to the agreement with Republic Services. Council accepted the staff's recommendation and provided direction on certain items to include in the negotiations. I will address those items in a moment. Since November, staff, with the assistance of R3, have been in negotiations with Republic Services. Issues discussed included providing additional services to meet new state requirements, resolving issues raised by customers and council regarding the current level of service, and negotiating a revised rate schedule. The proposed agreement includes an increase of 7.36%. The rate increase is related to the implementation of Senate Bill 1383 requirements and other service enhancements. Even with the inclusion of the proposed rate increase, the rates for Newark residents and businesses are generally more favorable than in other jurisdictions. I'll briefly touch on some highlights regarding the proposed service enhancements and the resolution of issues with current service levels. I'll start with Senate Bill 1383. SB 1383, which was signed into law in 2016, is California's most significant waste reduction mandate in the last 30 years. The goal of the legislation is to reduce the amount of organic material going to landfill in order to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. SB 1383 requires municipalities to implement significant new programs, including, for example, providing organic waste service to all residents and commercial customers, auditing accounts for contamination, and significantly enhanced annual reporting. The proposed agreement requires Republic Services to provide these services. It also requires Republic Services to pay the city $75,000 for the purchase and distribution of new labels for residential carts to promote proper sorting. As an aside, outside of this agreement and using Measure D funds, staff plans to purchase and distribute kitchen pails to every resident in residence in the city of Newark. And we're going to be bringing that item for your consideration at the next council meeting. Rose will provide details on other proposed service enhancements in her presentation as well. Moving on to concerns raised at the November council meeting. First, charges for services not rendered. A concern was raised regarding bins not being returned to enclosures and enclosures not being relocked. The proposed agreement requires Republic Services to provide a refund on the next month's bill if the bin lock service is not provided, or if any scheduled service is not provided by the next business day. In addition, the lock fee was reduced from approximately $24 to $8. Hold times. A concern was raised was customer service hold times. Wait times for customer service calls have been greatly improved. Recently, hold times have averaged less than 30 seconds, and the proposed agreement requires Republic Services to implement a callback option if there is an extended hold time. Overflowing bins and graffiti. A concern was also raised regarding overflowing bins or graffiti bins in commercial areas. The proposed agreement includes a fee of $45.19 per cubic yard for overflowing bins at commercial accounts. And Republic Services is and will continue to address graffiti issues through repainting or replacement of bins. Bad debt. The issue of bad debt and the option for implementing a lien process was discussed at the November council meeting. Staff evaluated implementing a lien process, and due to both legal and logistical concerns, opted to include a suspension of service option in the proposed agreement instead. The proposed agreement has a provision that allows for the suspension of service if a customer's account is more than 120 days past due and the customer has been given late payment notices and contacted by phone at least 3 times. This approach has been implemented in Fremont and has been effective. The city's code enforcement staff will get involved if necessary. Senior and low-income discounts. Council expressed support for continued or enhanced senior and low-income discounts. Staff analyzed the city's current discount program and compared it to other jurisdictions within the county. Newark's franchise agreement provides for a 15% discount on monthly garbage rates for senior and low-income residents. Newark's current senior low-income discount is above average for jurisdictions within the county, as some jurisdictions do not offer any discounts, and those that do offer a similar discount. Fremont is the only jurisdiction that offers a higher discount. The proposed agreement retains a 50% discount for seniors and low-income residents. Rose will now provide details on other enhancements in the proposed agreement and a comparison of proposed revised rates to other franchise agreements.
And City Council members, thank you for having me again before you, and I'm pleased to be providing an update on where we are with the negotiations and also the contents of the proposed franchise agreement, which is a restated franchise agreement. So I am going to go through background. Jim has already provided a lot of the background that I might have covered, so I will move through those slides quickly, but please speak up if I say anything that causes any questions around that. I'll walk through the results of the rate survey that are it's updated according to what the rates would be if you accept this new agreement. Give you the detail, the main big differences between the proposed agreement and what you have in place currently. And then just a little information about the finances. So you are a part of Stop Waste, which is a joint powers authority. They provide you grant money and a number of other services. You also hold a separate agreement with transfer station. So Republic delivers the garbage to that transfer station. You did go through a competitive bidding process in 2013, and your current agreement is expiring next month. You, in 2020, did have a detailed rate review that established rates at the current cost of providing service. And 77% of residents said in 2021 that they were happy with the service provided by Republic currently. Your base level of service is essentially the best you can get. You already have food waste in your residential garbage, and your commercial customers have access to state-of-the-art programs. You currently have a full-time recycling coordinator from Republic. You have guaranteed capacity, an annual compost giveaway, bulky item pickups provided for free, and up-to-date trucks. So on the senior and low-income discounts, that is a 15% discount, and the residents would need to apply. This is a fairly popular program. There's also the provision of backyard service at no additional cost for people with disabilities that cause them not to be able to move their carts. And then Jim mentioned Senate Bill 1383. This is otherwise known as the Short-Lived Climate Pollutants Reduction Act. It went into effect last year, and it has very large impacts on the garbage industry. It really goes kind of comprehensively through every single step of the process, from an individual person deciding where to put certain garbage, like sorting out their food waste, to how it's collected, and all the way to like the facilities themselves and how they manage the material. It is a statewide mandate that's passed down to local governments. It builds on prior law, and it really focuses on organic waste in specific, and tries to get it out of the landfill. There's also edible food recovery program requirements. So we are recommending that you extend with Republic because of these main reasons, is that the city is, both your residents and city staff, it's satisfied, happy with Republic. They're doing a good job. I think it's worth mentioning that the current market environment is a little tumultuous, and it's fairly uncommon to do competitive procurements right now, mostly because of SB 1383. We're seeing a lot of communities in the Bay Area that go out to bid, seeing very large rate increases, much higher than what we're looking at for this extension. Republic also offers significant economies of scale because they provide service to your two nearby cities, and they also have Newbie Island, which is just down the road, basically. Let's see. We'd also say, you know, of course, if you go out to bid, there's no guarantee of a better rate deal than what you have before you today. We already talked a bit about the regulations. This is a significant shift in the garbage industry. And we are looking at the 10-year agreement term, which is industry standard. And I think importantly as well, Republic asked to extend. They want to still continue to provide service for you. I'm going to walk through the results of the rate survey. This was also provided in your staff report. Starting with the residential 20-gallon, which is the smallest container size. Relatively fewer people subscribe to this container. The 32-gallon is the most popular at about 70% of customers subscribe to the 32-gallon. You do see in this rate survey, you're landing toward the front end of 20-gallon rates, but you can see that generally they're pretty much all the same. And the reason that this rate looks different from the others is because of the structure of the other cities' rates, essentially attempting to push people into the 20-gallon container size for financial savings. And that's not how your rate structure it's not designed in quite that same way. Also worth mentioning here, we made assumptions because this is based on the rate survey that we looked at last year. So we made assumptions about cost of living increases. These numbers may not exactly match what these cities are, their rates are currently, but it is comparable in terms of, because we're looking at your future rate. So then I'll step through the rest of the sizes. The 32-gallon is still the lowest among the surveyed communities. The 64-gallon is looking pretty good too. And then the 96 as well. So, and you can see those big, basically a lot of the other communities have much more expensive sizes of higher than the 20-gallon. In terms of dollars per month, we're looking at the 96-gallon going up by $7.15, and then each of the other container sizes by relatively smaller amounts. And then for commercial, we just took the 3 cubic yard once a week size, and you're still quite competitive on the commercial rates as well. This is representative of what we're seeing for the other container sizes. I just didn't want to show you all of them. So what's different about your new agreement? We would continue to do annual increases, but we're changing the basis of the increases from the All Urban Consumers CPI, Consumer Price Index, to one that is reflective of more directly the refuse changes and cost of service for refuse. So we do think it's a more appropriate index to use. And by the way, there was a typo on the slide that's in your agenda packet that had said Bay Area CPI, but that's not correct. For SB 1383, we already had organic collection service for all customers, but it's worth mentioning that we are obligating Republic to roll out the program for the commercial base like the state is expecting very aggressively, and we've written that into the agreement. We're adding another full-time recycling coordinator, route auditor for contamination monitoring. There's a payment, as Jim mentioned, for cart labels, provision of compost, which is going to help with a part of SB 1383 compliance. Your bins will have their color adjusted so that it matches the statewide standard. And also a collection service notice that includes specified things that are required annually to be, for residents and businesses to be informed about. Aside from SB 1383 benefits, we're also, as Jim mentioned, changing some of the customer service standards, including adding that callback. We added a multifamily bulky item pickup program that's an enhancement on your current to allow those residences to have better access to bulky item collection. We're changing some of the standards around the construction demolition debris recycling program to enhance that. We're adding some performance standards, contamination monitoring, overflow. I think, Jim, you covered that thoroughly. And there's also a payment to you for part of the cost of negotiations. And notable as well, we have some cost savings. We're changing the way that the vehicles look a little bit to save on maintenance costs. And also, Jim mentioned the service hold for past due accounts. You have a very, I guess, a large number of customers that are not paying their bills promptly. And so Republic needs help in collecting those past due accounts. And this would all be a request from Republic to the city. The city staff would need to approve before Republic could take action. We do think that the contemplated rate increase is very reasonable compared to other cities that are going into an SB 1383 compliant program. It's fairly low. And it is also based only on the costs that Republic will bear in the changes that we're making. So they're not looking to pad profit. And again, this is because the city, we requested them to add these programs. Again, we think that there's cost savings for economies of scale. And also, I think it's worth noting that a full request for proposals process is a lot more expensive than this process has been. So I guess with that, I will pass this back over to Jim.
Okay. Thank you, Rose. So Honorable Mayor and Council, staff recommends that Council adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the proposed amended and restated agreement with Allied Waste Services of North America, LLC, Republic Services, and approving a revised rate schedule. And we're happy to answer any questions.
City Manager, refresh my memory. This is a public hearing?
It is not a public hearing, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Any clarifying questions before we open up to the public to comment? Councilmember Bucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was mentioned about the CPI metric being changed to a different one, and I had a question exactly about that because I wasn't understanding. There's a separate one for refuge. Is that what you're?
Yeah. So the water, sewer, trash consumer price index is not based on like all consumers' costs. So it's not including things like clothing and things that are included in all consumers. Water, sewer, trash is based on industry costs for those given industries.
I had the same question, Councilmember. Can you give an example of what is the current CPI for this last year, and what would that rate be based on the provision you just described? Can you?
I
Give-
can find that because I did just recently run
Yeah,
that.
It's in the
Do you have
staff report.
Okay.
I believe the last 5 years, it was, all urban was higher, by.
Something like 1%
I have the
or
information
less.
here in front of me.
Thank you.
3%.
So we did provide a table showing 5-year comparison of the water sewer trash index versus the all-consumer CPI. The 5-year average does show the water sewer trash being lower than the all-urban consumer price index. For those 5 years, 4 out of those 5 years, the water sewer trash index was lower than all-consumer price index. And for that 1 year where the all-consumer price index was higher, it was about 0.1%.
Thank you.
A little less
Councilmember Bucci?
volatile. Thank you. We were going to the same place, so thank you. That's all for now.
Any other questions? Clarify. Yes, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. So my question is backyard service. What is backyard service? It said wasn't available, but I don't even know what backyard service is.
Sure, sorry about that. It's, industry lingo. So what it is that the driver gets out of their truck and they go to wherever the container is placed by the resident and bring it out to the truck rather than being placed curbside.
Okay. Bulky pickups per household, I think it's 3 per year. So multifamily, how many pickups per year?
Yeah, so
Do you
Did
know off
you-
the top of your head? It depends on how many, what's their current level of garbage service. I'd have to look it up here. I don't know, Joe, if you know off the top of your head, but they get a couple of large, like 30-yard bins a couple times a year. They can sign up for advance to get large boxes dropped off.
My concern was if there's a multi-unit, maybe 6 units, and one apartment keeps getting vacated and they keep leaving garbage, can the owner or the other residents ask for a bulky pickup because all that garbage is left outside or something?
The owner can ask for the 3 anytime, the owner of a multifamily. If the account holder gets 3. And also Republic is, we've looked at their past data and they've done more than that for account holders as well, but 3 is the standard.
Okay.
So they could do that, and then they could also ask for a drop box as well, in addition to that.
More education for recycling. Any opportunity that we have, I'd like to get our residents educated on what goes in what bin. It's, no matter how hard you try, you just can't you put pictures on the bins and they still don't understand. So more education. Get it through their heads. Thank you.
Any other clarifying questions? Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak to this item? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Good evening, Your Honor, Vice Mayor, Council and staff. My name is Mike DeBaney. I'm a driver for Republic Services here locally. And my love for serving the city, I don't have anything really prepared, so I'm just gonna kind of off the cuff, my apologies. My love for serving the city of Newark started 31 years ago when I spent 2 seasons on Filbert at the maintenance yard working for the Parks Department. And we spent 2 summers redoing all the irrigation and everything around the lakes. I assure you the leaking part, and it's not the side I did, you can't prove it, but just saying. I'm a recycle driver, and thank you, Vice Mayor. You were exactly in line with getting things squared away with recycle and what goes where. But I'm speaking for not the management side, but for the driver's side, my co-drivers, the men and women that do service this city. This is what we do. I mean, and the chance to serve the cities in which we live. We get to know the people who live here. We get to know their kids, their families. We know their dogs' names. I mean, you just know over the years we watch everybody grow and go to different schools, move on to college, Ohlone, wherever they want to go. And it means a lot to us as drivers, I assure you. It's not just a job for some of us because we live here. And we get that pride, I'm sure as you guys do as well, for making the city a better place. Like I said, I just wanted to thank you guys for the opportunity over this previous contract for letting us serve our friends and neighbors. And with your kind permission, we'll do it for another 10 years. That's all. Thanks. Have a good evening. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike, for those comments. See, what you don't realize, Mike, is that when my grandson Owen was 2, when he knew garbage day was, he was rushing out that door to go say hello to Gary, because Gary was our driver, and he waited for Gary every time and said hello to him, and Gary took the time to stop and say hello back to him. So you're right, you have become embedded in our community, and I speak for just many grandparents that can basically use the same example. It's not a job just for the drivers. It's really a commitment to the neighborhood and the community. And I don't know where Gary is now, but you know, he was certainly one of the best.
I thank you for that. To your point, if I may add one thing, Joe's not going to want to hear what I have to say on this, but in my truck, on my visor that flips down, I have street names for my route by day. And on those street names are the names of the kids that come out to see me. I have Mahmood, Jennifer, blah, 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 by street. That way, when I'm not there, when I'm on vacation or when I'm sick, the guy driving my truck knows. I'm on this street, that little boy come running out, he should be called by name. Hi, how are you? Mike will be here next week. He's on vacation. It's important that we keep that bond with our customers. And so, yeah, and I'm working on being a grandparent myself, I'm sure, thanks to my son. So these things are gonna matter to me as well. So thank you for your time.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor Hannon, council, city staff. I just would be remiss if I didn't also thank you for the opportunity to serve the city of Newark for another 10 years. I don't think I could say it any better than Mike did. I'm not going to try to, but just want to reiterate our interest in sticking around. And thank you all.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Councilmember Bucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to just go through a couple policy things here real fast, couple items. Couple small, couple big. One, first of all, I'm happy to see the lock fees were reduced. We appreciate that. That was an issue that came to council by churches and things who were having issues with that. And, you know, we certainly don't want to be 3 times higher than Fremont. So thank you for addressing that. Let me see here. I was curious, you know, and people may not know this, but a couple years ago, we had so many delinquent accounts in town that we actually were forced to raise the rates per the contract. So I am happy to see that we have kind of gotten away from that and are going a new direction and teaming up with code enforcement to start kind of going out and reaching out to people who are delinquent. I guess my question is, if this contract comes in on June 1st, how many delinquent accounts are there right now? And how much of a workload can we expect to see for code enforcement in those initial months?
Our plan is to not go suspend service on all delinquents accounts at one time. We'd start at the ones that are the most delinquent. Actually, and we'd also be starting the process of notifying in the 120 days, you know, even if they were delinquent previously. We did have a list of delinquent accounts. It was relatively long. I don't know the exact number, but there was quite a few. But the idea is we'd go with the ones that have been delinquent the longest and have the most highest bills due. So we work through that at a rate that we can handle.
Okay. No, I think that's good. Code enforcement has a talent for talking to folks and kind of getting them to comply with things through conversation. So I'm hoping that we'll be successful there. My last question, I guess, is just more of an issue that I had. I know that we are allowed to dump mattresses for free over at the transfer station. I think everybody likes that because there's nothing makes me more mad than seeing a mattress just dumped on the side of the road, right? But I did go and run a load of waste over to the transfer station myself recently. I threw a mattress on top, and the policy when I got there was because I had other garbage, I couldn't just put the mattress down for free over in the mattress pile. I had to also pay for it. So I had a choice of either kicking it off right there and going in and dumping my stuff and grabbing it again, or driving out the driveway and coming back in to pay for it. And I guess it just seems, and it's a silly thing, but when people are working and loading up things, I guess I don't understand why somebody just can't put a mattress over on the mattress pile when it's on the top of their garbage pile. And again, it seems like a little thing, but that's how mattresses end up on the side of our roads because they won't let us dump them. It's a free service. So I don't know that we can include some of that here, if that's a policy conversation for later, but that is something that I would like to see addressed. Other than that, I just want to thank staff. I know every time we have to do a new garbage contract of any kind, it is a huge undertaking, and it takes a lot of time. City Manager Benoon, who was our city attorney the last time we did this, I think spent 18 months of his life actually just working on this contract. So nobody's more excited about an extension than he is. So that's it for me for now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Other comments? Just a few comments. First of all, congratulations on a 77% approval rating. The notion that folks have to hold, I actually called the Republic because I wanted to understand the differential between the 20 and the 32 gallon. I think my call was answered in 30 seconds, and the woman that answered the call was extremely professional, extremely polite, and I had just an outstanding customer service experience, and this was just in the last 90 days. So I didn't get the employee's name, but outstanding service. I love the bulky pick. The bulky pickup for multifamily. I think it's incumbent upon owners of multifamily properties to make sure that they get the word to their tenant that that opportunity is available, so that when people move in, they understand that there's opportunities to dispose of furniture and large items when they decide to move out. The more they communicate that to their tenants, we will find less stuff dumped on our streets. So I like the bulky pickup for multifamily. Is Republic looking to electrify the garbage trucks in the near future, and what impact would that have on the city of Newark should that occur?
So this is still pretty early on in the process, but we are in the permitting stages of getting the charging infrastructure installed at our facility on Boyce Road. Cherry, actually. I'll use the Newark term for the road.
And would you anticipate then at some point that during this 10-year period that the vehicles will all be electric vehicles?
There's a possibility that some of the trucks will be electric. I can't say for sure whether all of them will be, or 5 or 6. At this point, it's early on, but we are in a pretty good geographic area, and just the way things are laid out to make that happen at this point, because yeah, there's limitations with the battery life right now, and you don't want to go somewhere where you got a bunch of hills, and you don't want to go 30 miles one way to get there. And luckily, we're about half a mile down the road. So
excellent. Thank you. Yes.
Question. So Pepsi just brought out a fleet of electric trucks, but it was through a grant that they worked through with California, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Are you guys going to be able to tag onto that grant to help with your fleet?
Yeah, there's incentives for this, and we're actively working through that to make it happen.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. My last 2 comments. One, thank you for the, first of all, thank you for the container that will go to every resident, because there's so much organic material that we use as residents throughout the day that we can, if we can easily put them into a container and then dispose of them, I think it just makes it a lot easier for our residents. And then my last comment is more of an editorial comment, and I'm going to do this every time the opportunity becomes available to me. SB 1383 was not welcomed by most jurisdictions. It was one of those state initiatives where I think the thought process and the end goal were good, and something we should all be striving for in terms of reducing what goes into the landfill. but there was so little direction provided to governmental agencies in terms of what their expectations were, but they made it real clear to us what the consequences would be if we didn't comply. Let me count how many dollars we received as a result of 1383 from the state. Actually, $0 from the state to implement a significant program, which I think we all agree to, but the state needs to start providing the funding necessary for the city to be able to move these programs forward. So when the state continues these unfunded mandates, I'm going to mention them every opportunity I can, not only as a Stop Waste representative, but as our council representative. We need the state to start making sure that governments are made whole at the local level because it becomes really a challenge for us. So those are my comments. If there's no other comments, I'll look for a motion to approve this contract.
So moved.
By Councilmember Bucci,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Jorgens.
I have been recused from this vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mine keeps popping up and it's already voted for me.
Yeah. I'm going to remove the vote. And that passes unanimously, four votes yes, and Councilmember Freitas absent. Big thank you to Republic Services for your service to our community. We appreciate it. Mike, thank you for showing up, representing the, appreciate the work that they do. Please make sure you share that with them when you see them, okay?
Resolution of the City Council of the City of Newark approving and authorizing the city manager to execute an amended and restated agreement between the City of Newark and Allied Waste Services of North America, LLC, DBA, for Public Services of Alameda County for a 10-year extension for the collection of solid waste and collection and processing of source-separated recyclable materials, organic materials, construction, demolition debris, and revising the maximum limit for rates for solid waste collection, recycling, organics, and construction and demolition debris services starting on June 1, 2023.
Thank you. Now we're going to go to City Council matters, and I'll look to Councilmember Bucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I was going to talk tonight about the Ohlone Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. They've been doing a ton of work out there. Their executive director, Kelly DeBain, has been really putting forward an effort out there. And if you recognize her last name, it's because her husband, Mike, is a driver who just spoke for us. Actually met Mike today while we were out there working, which is interesting to have you in here now speaking tonight. But, you know, they really rely on volunteerism out there, and a lot of their volunteers are older retired folks who can't do a lot of the work there. So we've been organizing work parties over the last couple months to try to get them open again. And I just wanted to give a shout out to our Boy Scout troops, our Cubs and our Scouts, who I have seen out there working more weekends than not, doing concrete projects and carpentry work. And they just did all the counters this last weekend when we were there. So they have really been going above and beyond the things that they would typically do to help get them back up and running. And the Ohlone Rehabilitation Center is an important place for us here, you know. It's the only place we can take wild animals to when they're injured or they're young. They got a new possum in today, some baby squirrels over the weekend. My daughter was thrilled about it, but they're doing good work out there, and I just, I appreciate all the work that the Boy Scouts have put in, so I wanted to give them a couple of attaboys tonight.
Excellent. Councilmember Jorgens.
Yeah, so about a week and a half ago, we had our family day at the park, and I want to thank the Recreation Department for putting on such a great event for, I don't know how many Newark families. I'm going to round to, it was about all of them. There's a lot of Newark residents at the park having a lot of fun. That includes me. I had a ton of fun this year at the family day at the park, and really looking forward to what the Recreation Department has planned for our community coming in the spring and summer.
Vice Mayor Collazo.
Thank you.
I've
Your
learned my
Honor.
lesson.
And you learned it well. So at the ACLAC meeting, I was informed that in 2022, there was 1,269 attempts to ban some literature from our libraries, whether they be magazines or books, literature that is important to family. And who should decide what one wants to read or wants our children to read? Is it a group that organizes and says, we're going to ban a book because they don't want it? They don't want to read it. They don't want their children to read it. And they are organized groups. So it's not a mother that goes in there and says, hey, I don't like this book. I don't want it on the shelf. These are organized groups now that are organizing to get books out of the library. But we can unite. And we can unite against the book bans. And so you can go to uniteagainstbookbans.org to help out. I think it's something that's very important. It's something that we should decide what we're going to read or we're going to allow our children to read. Item 2 that I was informed, states like Florida and Texas, the librarians that are trying to protect our rights for those books to be on the shelves are being sued. They're being attacked. They need liability, personal liability insurance that they have to buy themselves now. And I think that's ridiculous. Now, they're not suing the library, they're suing the librarian that is trying to keep these books on the shelves for generations to come, for whoever wants to read that. And there is a way to help these librarians. And I was going to bring these little squares that you could do with your phone, and I forgot them in my purse. But it is a program that's called the Merit Fund. And I'm sure if we go to the library and we ask Joe about it, he'll have the information. And I mean, if you donate $1, $5, it's something to help these librarians and our libraries. So let's try to keep these books on the shelf so we have the right to read what we want to read. And I think if you're going to buy a book, try to buy it here in Newark, Shop Newark. Thank you.
Well said, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
I want to take the opportunity to recognize HERS Breast Cancer Foundation, their 25th anniversary. HERS Breast Cancer Foundation was established in 1998, and 2023 marks the 25th anniversary of community service, whereas the HERS Breast Cancer Foundation is a grassroots organization founded by 3 women who recognized the unique needs of breast cancer survivors needed to be better addressed. And whereas the mission of HERS Breast Cancer Foundation is to support all individuals healing from breast cancer by providing post-surgical products and services, regardless of financial status. Whereas the HERS Breast Cancer Foundation will hold its 14th annual People with Purpose Gala on April 8, 2023. Therefore, this council recognized that day as HERS Breast Cancer Foundation. We provided them with this proclamation, but I wanted to make sure I read it into the record because it was an important proclamation. That's it for the council. City Manager Benoon?
Yes, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. 3 quick things. First, I'd like to thank our fabulous recreation staff for hosting Family Day at the Park. Thank the council as well for attending and showing support for our community. It was well attended, and we thank everybody for their support. Secondly, on a positive front from OBAG 3 MTC, the city did receive approval from MTC for the full $5.14 million requested for the streetscape improvements over in Old Town. And so we're excited about receiving those funds. In about 2 weeks or so, at the next council meeting, we should have an item where the council would adopt a resolution approving those funds, and then also agreeing to pay the remaining balance of the construction costs, which we anticipate to be a total of $9.5 million. So the city's contribution will be $4 million, and we're looking at funding sources at this point in time. So fabulous news, and that explains why we're not going to replace those street lights at this point, because we're going to replace them in a couple years anyways. And then last but not least, I thought I would point out that at the next council meeting, or excuse me, immediately prior to the next council meeting, Mayor Hannon will be delivering his first State of the City address. The address begins at 5 p.m. in this council chambers, and then at the conclusion of that address, there'll be a reception in the lobby, and then, of course, the regular council meeting will commence at 7 p.m. as per usual. So we're all very much looking forward to your first State of the City address.
Thank you for that. The next item is closed session. It's conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to California Code Section 54956.9D1. The name of the case in regards to national prescription opiate litigation, Northern District of Ohio, national opiate litigation involving Tava, Allergan, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart. That case number is 1-17-MD-2804. So we will now adjourn to closed session.